2018. The Switch was still a brand new console, Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey were all the rage with Nintendo fans. The 3DS was alive and well, there was no threat of disease wiping out all of humanity. And come December, the long-awaited Super Smash Bros. Ultimate would finally release on the Switch. Life was good for Nintendo fans. And of course, during the September 13th Smash Ultimate-centric Nintendo Direct, Animal Crossing fans were bewildered to find that our beloved business-savvy Shih Tzu Isabelle was announced as a new playable character in the upcoming Smash title. But then, Tom Nook appeared on the screen. Nintendo gave us a taste of things to come for the Animal Crossing franchise. We knew that something was cooking. A spin-off, maybe. New Leaf ported to the Switch, perhaps. Another major New Leaf update, similar to 2016's Welcome Amiibo update. No, this was bigger. This was a brand new Animal Crossing mainline title for the Switch, scheduled for a vague 2019 release date. Yes! Finally, after 6 years of nothing but Pocket Camp and Amiibo Festival, we were getting a new Animal Crossing. Needless to say, Animal Crossing fans were ecstatic to see new news about a new Animal Crossing game. But did we really get that much news? If you look at the trailer, we really didn't learn a lot. All that we really were able to put together was that, no, Nintendo didn't forget about Animal Crossing, and they were making a new one for the Switch. But that's about it, you know? We had no idea what this thing was going to look like. This would be the case for the better part of a year. But then, finally, in the summer of 2019 at E3, Nintendo gave us an update. We were hyped. And under 2 minutes, we learned that the new game would have a deserted island theme, a new crafting system, completely overhauled multiplayer, more inclusive skin color options, the ability to place items outside without having to do any crazy bell grinds. And most importantly, we had a name. Animal Crossing New Horizons. There was one problem though, this little thing here, the release date. We finally had an official date, down to the exact day, but that's not 2019. What's going on here? So, to give you some perspective, in 2019 there was this growing awareness of the insane crunch culture running rampant in AAA game dev companies. Major brands fell out of public favor over their alleged mistreatment of game developers. 80-plus hour work weeks, missed weddings, missed births of children, and the expectation to come into work with major illnesses all had been long commonplace in the industry. And so suddenly, people who had never even suspected that such abuse of workers was going on in the game development world were organizing protests and discussing labor unions and all sorts of brand new things for the industry. It wouldn't be long until pretty much every AAA gaming company was under the watchful eye of the public. People wanted to know what their favorite gaming company was like to work for. Coming back to Nintendo, there was a curiosity to see what their work culture was like. And at E3 2019, we got a bit of a peek into the situation. In an interview with IGN at the event, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser stated, "The crunch point is an interesting one. For us, one of our key tenets is that we bring smiles to people's faces, and we talk about that all the time. It's our vision, or our mission, I should say. We need to make sure that our companies have a good work-life balance. We will not bring a game to market before it's ready." Well, we just talked about one example, Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's really important that we have that balance in our world. It's actually something we're proud of. And there it was, it all made sense. Animal Crossing New Horizons was going to be delayed until March 20th, 2020, in an effort to give the game's development room to breathe. Nintendo was combating crunch culture in the gaming industry by delaying one of its most highly anticipated titles. Now before you say anything, don't get me wrong, this is in no way me trying to tell you, wow, look at how great and how saint-like Nintendo is, because that's just not the case. But at this point, when they made this decision about Animal Crossing New Horizons, the most anticipated game of the year, they were looking pretty good. People were bummed, for sure. You know, I was bummed too, but We understood that it was important that these people could go home to their families and take time off when they're sick and just live life as people and not numbers in a company. That was important to a lot of us, and I think a lot of us saw that and respected the decision. Despite the delay, anticipation for the game would only multiply. For Nintendo fans, the spring of 2020 was about to be dominated by Animal Crossing New Horizons. Speculation videos, tributes to former games in the series, Animal Crossing villager tier lists, and bubblegum KK memes spread like wildfire. Animal Crossing was experiencing a major popularity spike, and the game hadn't even launched yet. Of course, the world doesn't revolve around gamers.
Huh?
As many of you know with the power of hindsight, Animal Crossing became one of the last things that people were thinking about as we came closer to the spring of 2020. While gaming-centric media was talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons and the new Doom game, traditional news media was taking on a far different tone. On December 12, 2019, reports of a strangely resilient form of illness, symptomatically similar to pneumonia, began to emanate out of Wuhan, China. Interesting stuff, but surely nothing to worry about here and anywhere else in the world, right? That's just going on in Wuhan, China. So said the world in December 2019. By January 10th of 2020, the World Health Organization officially began calling this peculiar illness the 2019 novel coronavirus. By February 23rd, the disease, now officially known as COVID-19, had spread throughout the entire world, prompting entire countries to go into travel lockdowns in an attempt to prevent further spread of the virus. On March 11th, the CDC officially declares COVID-19 a pandemic. The US declares a state of emergency. Rapidly, schools, workplaces, restaurants, public events, and just about anything and everything else not considered mandatory began to shut down. Most people worldwide were essentially placed on house arrest. You only really left home if you had no other choice to. The world was in survival mode. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Stress and fear ran rampant. How deadly was this thing? How long would we be stuck inside? A few weeks? A few months? And yeah, that novelty of not having to go to work or classes wore off pretty quickly. This was no snow day. No, quite frankly, this sucked. Some people tackled their growing sense of dread in this situation by cultivating newfound hobbies. Some baked bread, some launched YouTube channels, and some, us Animal Crossing fans, anxiously awaited the one thing that we could look forward to right now. And come March 20th, the long-awaited game, Animal Crossing New Horizons, would finally launch on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I feel like I know what you're thinking here. Did you just go from talking about how miserable COVID-19 was for everybody right into Animal Crossing? Yeah, I did, but hear me out. Okay, imagine this. Put yourself back in March of 2020. Every time you open your phone, there's more and more news about death and disease. Hope is becoming harder and harder to hold on to while you try your best to keep your head up. The word unprecedented becomes the latest buzzword, and for good reason. This truly is an unprecedented situation. You try to watch YouTube, and all of your favorite creators are just as sad and confused and hopeless as you are. You try to watch sports, they're canceled. You try to watch wrestling, but it looks like this and only worsens the very dread you're trying to escape from. But video games seem to help. The thing about video games more than any other kind of media is that their primary focus is to simulate things. Video games aim to simulate lives that we can't live, simulate situations that we can't be in. I can't be a Pokemon trainer in real life, but I can be one when I play the games. I can't be a super cool action hero in real life, but I can be one when I play Uncharted. And during the global pandemic, I can't go outside and hang out with my friends, but I can in Animal Crossing. If you're like me, then you bought the game the literal second that it was released, midnight of March 20th. And if you're like me, shortly thereafter, the game became your life. In reality, I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. My entire life was completely on hold. Every time I tried to open my phone, I just kept doom scrolling and learning more things that just made me even more upset about the state of things. But on my Animal Crossing island, things were getting better and better by the day. And I mean that, by the day. One day I might finally have Nook's Cranny, and then the next day I might unlock the Able Sisters. Then the next one I could have the museum, and so on and so forth. Not only that, but every time I picked up the controller, I was watching my island's beauty and aesthetic grow. With each passing day, there would be new pieces of furniture decorating the island. New cute little virtual friends to come into contact with, and always something fresh and exciting to sink my teeth into. It was the one tiny light in a room filled with darkness. Probably the most notable impact of the COVID-19 quarantine was the profound lack of togetherness. Sure, we could Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, email, fax, whatever you want to do. You could contact the people that you knew in your life, but there wasn't a sense of closeness. For most of us, the only people that we interacted with in any physical capacity were the people that we lived with. And for those who took on the quarantine completely alone, things got pretty grim. But we knew how to cope with it the best we could. Not everyone was playing Animal Crossing New Horizons, but statistically, at least 31 million people were playing the game in 2020 alone, far exceeding the sales of any other Animal Crossing title by the double digits. In 2021, the game would have officially sold more copies than the entire rest of the series combined. People all over the world were flocking towards this thing, buying it in droves. Something about it made it one of the most appealing games in the entire world during the pandemic. I believe that the gameplay itself and all of its many components are why the game took off so well. Sure, we had other life sims we could play. The Sims, Stardew Valley, even Minecraft. Those games could just as easily have filled the many voids that people were trying to fill. But New Horizons was special. The celebration of simple, meaningful living has been central to the themes of Animal Crossing since the very beginning. Players are rewarded for taking their time with things and enjoying life's simple pleasures, romanticizing the little things. Go catch some bugs, go fishing, water your flowers, decorate your home, and embrace the tiny beauties in life that we so often take for granted. These kinds of activities promote mindfulness and allow the player to practice relieving stress, a much-needed opportunity in the middle of a global pandemic. New Horizons became a sort of alternate world for many players. In reality, we had no control over the world around us. Everything was falling apart, and we couldn't do anything about it. But in Animal Crossing, especially New Horizons, we had all the control. This was kind of a new direction for the series, actually. Even in New Leaf, the title that launched directly before New Horizons, we were given some level of control as the town's mayor, but never to this degree. In most other installments, Animal Crossing is all about finding your own place in a pre-existing world. In those games, you're not in charge. You don't have any control. You're just another resident in this peaceful little town. It's up to you to carve out your own place in this community. But in New Horizons, you do have all of the power. You decide who does and doesn't live on the island. You get to choose where people live, what their yards look like, where the shops should be located, and even what people's houses look like on the inside. Today, this is seen as a pretty controversial direction for the series. Many longtime Animal Crossing fans dislike the level of power given to the player. This is a commonly shared sentiment today, but not so much in 2020. During such a desperate time, having this much control over something was welcomed with open arms. In addition to this, thanks to the game's real-life clock, players were able to once again establish a sense of daily routine. Everything runs on a schedule in Animal Crossing. The shops open at a certain time of day. You can only buy turnips on Sunday mornings, and if you waited longer than a week to sell them, well then they would rot and become worthless. KK Slider generally only comes to the island on Saturdays, and he won't take requests until 6 p.m. The game's many special events such as fishing tourneys, Bunny Day, Halloween, and Toy Day all happen on specific days of the year. Players even get to experience a very special birthday celebration if they play the game on their real-life birthday. In a way, the game's schedule becomes a virtual extension of the player's real-life schedule. And at the height of the game's popularity, you would often see people coming together on social media to share memes and updates about how their day went in-game. New Horizons is without a doubt a very social experience. The game features online functionality, allowing players to visit each other's islands and virtual homes without ever leaving their own real-life homes. During the quarantine, this was such an important feature of the game to so many people. Even non-gamers were buying Switches just to play this game because it allowed for a simulated sense of togetherness. Sure, you could Zoom, call, or FaceTime your loved ones while you were forced to be apart in any physical capacity, but you couldn't really hang out with them, you couldn't do things with them. With New Horizons, you could actually meet up with your friends and family. You could run around together and use your imagination while interacting with that little restaurant you made, or play any number of fun makeshift games you may have put together. It can't be overstated just how valuable this was for people. There were even real-life, very important life events that couldn't happen in real life due to the quarantine, so they just made it happen in Animal Crossing. People celebrated their own weddings, graduations, birthday parties, and all sorts of very important special life moments that just couldn't happen any other way than through the game's online features. Brands got on board and made their own Dream Address Islands as a form of unconventional advertising. President Joe Biden's administration used the game to promote his 2020 presidential campaign. Of course, at this point, Nintendo became concerned over companies using the game for their own monetary gain, so some restrictions arose in regards to just how the Dream Islands could be used. Nevertheless, it was a wild time, and the soon-to-be President of the United States being reprimanded by Nintendo was far from the only absurd headline to come from the absolute obsession the world had developed with this game. Who here remembers Raymond? I mean, yeah, I know he's still in the game, but remember when there was no Raymond amiibo card? Back when you couldn't just scan a thing and get him in the game right then and there? This guy, right here, took the world by storm. A nerdy little cat with heterochromia and a dream had the, at this point, massive Animal Crossing community in the palm of his hands. Everyone had to have this little guy on their island. I mean, I'm talking it became almost like a status symbol to have Raymond on your island. People gave real money to have this guy. People got into online fights over this guy. I would believe you if you told me that people got in real fights over him. You know, I remember one time Vinny of Vine Sauce on Twitch was playing the game and he got Raymond as his randomly selected campsite visitor while he was streaming.
The nerdy cat.
And he got so much backlash from his own chat, his own fans, for not inviting him to live on the island just because he wasn't that into him.
Chat is like, I can't believe what Animal Crossing is doing to the chat right now. Absolutely insane. You guys are losing your f***ing minds.
I mean, this game had people going feral at the time. Animal Crossing madness? It was real, and it ran rampant. We don't have to look any further than to websites like Nookazon and Nook Mart to see just how obsessive people became over this game. For the uninitiated, these are websites where people can skip the gameplay, so to speak, and barter for items in the game. Nook Mart is particularly wild to me because it allows for the exchange of real-life currency for in-game items. Don't want to spend hours of gameplay befriending that random villager just so you can get your hands on their special friendship photo? Just buy it for $1. A real dollar that you worked for. In real life. Animal Crossing-centric social media accounts became a hot new trend as well. People would create new Twitter and Instagram accounts separate from their main account and theme them around some combination of their in-game character and their beloved island. I should know, I was one of them. That's where about 90% of my Twitter followers come from. In 2020, during the global shutdown and mass quarantine of most of humanity, Animal Crossing New Horizons became many people's lives. You know, it became my life for a while. Make no mistake, I had a lot of things going on, even in 2020. A lot of important family developments. I was finishing up my time in college. But even in my virtual classes, I would mute myself and turn off my camera and pick up the Switch and start playing New Horizons. Absolutely any chance I got, any free time where I wasn't working on homework or figuring out all the many things that go on in college, even if you're stuck at home, I was playing Animal Crossing. That is, if my wife wasn't playing Animal Crossing because we shared the same island. Yeah. Let me tell you, our Switch was working like 12-hour days with no breaks back then. I don't know how it survived all of that. We were stuck inside for who knows how long, so what else could we really do with our time except play this game? Hours upon hours stacked up in the system's gameplay log, people feverishly devoured every single drop of content the game had to offer. The unbridled passion people had for this game worked very much to its favor, becoming a higher selling title than all other Animal Crossing games combined. But in hindsight, I think that this is actually what led to the game's eventual rapid decline in popularity. Let's come back to the present day for a sec. 2024. Now, when you think about Animal Crossing New Horizons today, what do you think of? Is it still that beautiful work of pure joy that helped heal the world's mental health 4 years ago, or do you see something else? If you're like many people, you hold a sentiment something to the effect of, well, Nintendo abandoned this game. They took their money and ran. It's unfinished. It's soulless compared to previous titles in the series. Let me ask you, how many of those Animal Crossing social media accounts that you followed back in the day are still active? I'm sure it's not a lot. There's no doubt that the game's popularity really diminished over time. But why is it so stark? Why is it such a dramatic difference between 2020 when everybody loved the game, and then just 4 years later, people treat it like it's one of the lesser games in the series? I think that it boils down to one thing, one fact. Animal Crossing New Horizons wasn't developed with a pandemic in mind. The March 20th launch date no doubt contributed to the game's immense success, but remember how we got here. It was originally set to launch sometime in 2019. If the game had launched according to plan, we wouldn't have been in a global pandemic at all. We wouldn't have been able to sink so many hours into the game so quickly because we'd be busy working and doing all the things that COVID canceled. We would have taken our time with the game, exactly the way Nintendo intended.
Get this bum out of here, will you? Just get this bum out of here already, huh?
Sorry. Instead, we all collectively binged the game. You know, every ounce of content that the game had to offer, we soaked it up like a sponge, instantly. A lot of players' experiences went a little something like this. You buy the game and jump right in. Immediately, you're entranced. You speed through all the early content. Maybe you even adjust your system's clock settings in order to speed up the process even further. Before you know it, you've reached 3 stars. KK is on his way and you've effectively beaten the game. But no, not really. No, we've only just scratched the surface here. We just beat the tutorial, baby. Now we can terraform. Let the games really begin. You transform your humble little land into a dreamscape. City core, cottage core, kid core, you name it, there's a core for it. Maybe you watch some island tours for inspiration. You work for hours, days, weeks, and finally, you've crafted your perfect island. You did it! You've created your very own slice of paradise. So what now? The game wasn't meant for this. Nintendo couldn't have possibly predicted what 2020 would have been like when they set the March 2020 release date. They planned for a game that people might play for a couple hours at most each day. After all, people have jobs, social lives, responsibilities. They don't have time to binge this game all the time. Except they did. With nothing else going on in the world other than the next thing on the news that makes you sad, people devoured this game. In a couple months, they'd have exhausted all that the game had to offer. Sure, the game received numerous updates over the course of the next year or so, and the content added in these updates was a lot of fun. But once again, we devoured that stuff too. Finally, we ran out of stuff. What now? Restart the game? Buy a whole second Switch console and another $60 copy of the game just to have a second island to play on? Or the option most players chose, drop the game and move on to the next shiny thing. Just as quickly as it was embraced in the millions, New Horizons fell off. Only the most dedicated players remained. The new shiny things took the world by storm. Games like Elden Ring, Super Mario Wonder, Tears of the Kingdom, and Baldur's Gate 3 all became major successes. Other cozy life sim games like Stardew Valley, Littlewood, and Disney's Dreamlight Valley took the cozy game crown from Animal Crossing for the time being. New Horizons had once ruled the world, but now it's just the fifth Animal Crossing game to a lot of people. This happens. It happens to every game at some point. People fall out of love when the novelty wears off and they move on to the next thing. But I feel like we often forget just what the true legacy of Animal Crossing New Horizons really is. How do you remember it? Just another Animal Crossing game? Or the game you used to love but don't really care about anymore? Or are you someone, like me, who never really gave up on the game? Even though you've done everything there is to do, you still somehow find a way to enjoy it. Any one of these outlooks is perfectly valid and perfectly understandable. To tell you the truth, I've actually felt all of these things about the game at some point. But ultimately, I think I'll always remember it more so than anything else as the game that got me through 2020. The game that was there for me when most other things in my life that made me happy just weren't there. It was one of the very few things that brought me joy and structure, a simulation of nature and socialization. Say what you will about New Horizons today. It's certainly got its issues, but I don't think I'll ever forget exactly what it meant to me during such a difficult time. So, consider this video a thank you, New Horizons. Now, with that said, Nintendo, please, next time you make an Animal Crossing game with crafting in it, just make sure that you let us make more than one thing at a time. Maybe let us stack things here and there. Maybe let us, next time I have to make bait for my fish so that I can catch 100 fish at once. Maybe you could let me craft maybe 100 bait at once, huh? Maybe you could do that. Maybe you could do what Minecraft does. Maybe you could do what Stardew Valley does. I don't know. Let me craft more than one thing at a time is what I want to know. Nintendo, are you listening? Nintendo. I've been Skivvy McDo. Good night. I want to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video, especially to this point. You're a real fan, aren't you? Listen, this video has taken me so long to make, and I've been a very busy bee trying to make this and also work a full-time job, so I very much appreciate all of you who have stuck around and subscribed and been with me on this journey. So, yeah, thank you very much. Please like, comment, and subscribe if that's something that you would like to do, and if it's not something that you would like to do, then, I don't know, don't. I'm not the boss of you. Go Go watch a Mr. Beast video or something. You know, something people put money in. Yeah. See ya.